What a matchup in the Pac-12 tonight. Utah taking the win just slightly over Arizona, but this Utah team is very fun to watch and young, Steve. I know we're going to talk about that in this one. 80-79, number 10 Utah defeating number 14 Arizona. Two fantastic basketball teams in this matchup. The Utes find a way to get the win. I mean, it was a great game from start to finish. It winds up coming down to the absolute end, a 1-point victory. I mean, there's just so many great things to take away from this game. Let's start with the winners. Let's start with Utah, Steve. What was your thoughts on this one?
Well, we should call the segment Slasher Utah because, I mean, literally that's how impressive I think that they were throughout the game. Arizona is no pushover. They are
No way.
no easy win. But, Alyssa Peely, she's just a special player. And she's what I always call a force of will player. I mean, yes, she's very talented, but she just wills herself into scoring opportunities. She makes her teammates better. She seems to always be very encouraging, coming back, off of a break, kind of helping lead, putting their younger players in different places. She's going to, because we now probably have like 361 player of the year watch players. We kind of tout every game, because I mean, really every team has at least one player that should be considered player of the year. I don't care what your record is. If you're making impact on the court, I think you deserve to have some recognition. But Alyssa Peely, she is special. And the fact that she hit those final two free throws, I mean, she swished them. It's not like, they rattled around. She swished them with like 0.3 seconds left in the game. And this was right after Arizona, got a big steal. I mean, they lead the nation in steals per game, got a big steal, got an easy basket on the other end with about, I think it was 1.5, 1.6 seconds left. Utah came right back down. She drew the foul, hit the foul shots, and Utah comes out ahead 15-1.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little surprised at that record. I mean, I knew they were going to be a great team this year. I just didn't know it was going to be this fantastic of a start. And now it's not even a start anymore. We're getting into the second half of the season, and we're still seeing them do fantastic things. I mean, they were undefeated until a week ago, the 6th, when they lost to Colorado by 10. Obviously, they didn't get a chance to play the Arizona State game. We know that's a weird issue going on in the Pac-12 right now. That's a whole nother episode. Yeah. And then they get this nice win against Utah. We're talking about some really, really great teams right now. We're going to talk about their next game in depth in just a minute, because it is going to be a doozy. But first, let's talk about this Arizona squad, because they both these teams shot great. When you talk about, they both shot over 50% from the field. Arizona shot a little less than the 3-point line than Utah. I mean, but you really can't point at what an issue was for either of these teams or why they lost this game. It really just came down to the wire, and Utah just got the win over this one. This one could have gone either way. There's no doubt about that one. Arizona now sits at 14-4 in the Pac-12. They are now sitting at 4-3. That is a huge shift. Losing a game by only 1 point, and instead of being 5-2, you're now 4-3. That puts you now tied for 4th. That's not good in a division or a conference like the Pac-12, who has some very top-ended teams like Utah, like Stanford, and like Colorado this year, who's really doing some big moves in the Pac-12. What's your thoughts about this Arizona squad? Even though they just didn't get the win, still a lot of things to be excited about.
What I liked about it is they took advantage of opportunities. I mean, really, if you were looking at overall pace of play, I would say Utah won this by a much wider margin. But Arizona forced turnovers, and they converted those turnovers into points in transition. So for me, that just shows not only how well coached they are, but it just the tenacity, up and down the roster. I mean, they never really gave up. They never hung their heads. They battled and kept themselves in this game. Because quite honestly, as much as I like this Arizona roster, I love this Utah roster. And, Peely's only a junior. Their other 4 starters are sophomores. You look at their bench, I think there's 2 seniors and everybody else is a sophomore or a freshman. I mean, this is an Uber team. We talked a little bit, before we started recording this bit, about how Utah, if they can somehow survive being dismantled through the transfer portal or early defections to the WNBA next year, this is an Uber team going out as early as next year. This is going to be a special team, and despite them being young, and I was talking about down the road, like you pointed out also, Christian, they're 15-1 now. Right now, they didn't have the strongest, pre-conference schedule. Okay, that's true. So that helped contribute to them to being undefeated. But again, if you only have one loss so far, which is basically, I don't think we're quite at the halfway mark of conference play, but we're kind of getting there within the next, week or 10 days or so, then that's saying something. So now suddenly you have to add Utah into that mix. I know we're going to probably start playing, I don't want to call it bracketology. We'll have to call it something different so we don't get sued for copyright infringement. But I know we kicked around doing that idea, and now suddenly Utah has to get some serious consideration at a top 4 seed in whatever bracket you want to put them into.
Yeah, I think even higher than that. I think you might be talking about consideration as a possible 2 or 3 seed once it gets all said and done. I mean, if they win the Pac-12, especially if a team like Stanford's sitting in there, I mean, you're talking as a true number 1 seed. There's no doubt about that. As for Arizona, their next game is Sunday at 5:00 Eastern time. So sorry, Pac-12 folks, we are talking Eastern time in this one. That will change probably in April. However, 5:00 Eastern, Pac-12 network. Arizona is set to take on Arizona State. Currently, that game is not forfeited. That is the next scheduled game for Arizona on the slate. Their next one that they should be ready to go for. We'll see if that one happens. If that doesn't happen, their next game will be Friday the 27th at home against UW. As for Utah, their next game is a doozy, and I think we got to talk about this one. I think it'd have a little more excitement if it didn't just happen tonight. But Stanford did lose to USC. Now Utah's going to head into Stanford after Stanford losing to USC. They play Friday night, 9:00 Eastern on Pac-12 Network. This game should be on ABC. To be completely honest, this is going to be a huge game. I mean, we're probably talking a team that's just inside the top 5 against a team that's just outside the top 5 once the new rankings come out, in my opinion. I'm going to just randomly guess 4 versus 8 once we're seeing the rankings. I know we haven't seen the rankings yet. We'll see what happens when Monday morning happens. However, Utah against Stanford, this is a battle for the top of the Pac-12 conference right now. Obviously, we still have plenty of games left to go. We have 11, 12 games to go in the conference, but this is huge for implications, and this could really show, it can really show if Stanford's for real. I know a couple people have had questions about that, and I'm sure those questions are even growing even more after the USC loss. But it then also can show is, hey, with Utah, we know this team is young. We know that they're not even starting a single senior. I mean, their best player is only a junior. A whole bunch of sophomores and they're starting 5, a couple seniors off the bench. A lot of people thought maybe next year is when they really make their true run. But is this the year that they can really make a huge run in the Pac-12 and in March? We're going to find a lot out on Friday, Steve.
We are. I'm going to already kind of stick my neck out, and I'm going to say that Utah beats Stanford on the road. I know it's a road game, so that's really kind of, and I'm correct on that. They're playing at Stanford. Am I correct?
They are. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I am a believer in this Utah team, and sometimes youth can play to your advantage. I believe that Stanford is starting to feel, you don't want to call it pressure because, I mean, they're just so good, but I think they're starting to feel the expectations, feeling the weight of those expectations. And I don't know that they're handling that weight. It's, you watch weightlifters and they clean and jerk and they're kind of struggling. Yeah, they eventually get that bar up, but you can see that they're really struggling as the weight goes up. And I think this might be a weight that the Cardinal cannot clean and jerk on it. I think Utah behind Peely. I think Peely will be. It's an interesting matchup. There's going to be some really interesting matchups in this Utah Stanford game, but I think Peely can give them problems. And I'm going to go out and say the Utes beat Stanford on Friday.
I'm not going to go against you on that, to be completely honest. If we look at recent trends, Utah is averaging 50% from the field all season long. Against Arizona, they were over average 53.4% from the field. You look at the other side with Stanford, they average 47% from the field all season long, below Utah on season average. In that game against USC, they only shot 30% from the entire field. A big issue for them. That trend is obviously going down. I mean, it's a team. They have a great coach. Don't get me wrong. On the Stanford side, they have great players. We're going to see them in the WNBA next year. However, that is not a great thing to do. Can they bounce back? Sure. But we have seen some great things from this Utah squad. They've been very consistent, and it's hard to bet against them right now. I believe that they are truly, right now, the best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they have what I call an intimidating presence in the paint. They're not. I like Jenna Johnson. I think she's an underrated player. Again, she's not going to light up scouting reports, and she's not going to put up lots of points. She's just a good inside player. So when you team her with Peely, I think that's a tough matchup for anybody. There are dominating teams in the paint. South Carolina is dominating in the paint. There's a couple other teams you can point out and say, okay, they're dominant in the paint. But Utah is intimidating. And I think if they can keep Stanford off balance and force Stanford out to the perimeter, I think that's going to play to Utah's advantage.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. It's a Friday night game, Utah versus Stanford. That'll be a fantastic one. We might have to go live once
Yeah,
that
I
one's
was
all
gonna,
over.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I mean, we might have to be doing some crazy stuff here at Slasher, but we always have you covered here. So be sure to tune in. Let us know your thoughts in the comment description below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. And thanks for watching Slasher U.